Most people think they're eating healthy, but some of the health foods you trust every day may be damaging your gut, metabolism, and inflammation levels. I'm Dr. Josh Axe. As a doctor of natural medicine, I've spent years studying how food truly affects the body. On this channel, we uncover the truth about nutrition, supplements, and natural healing so you can live longer, stronger, and healthier. Subscribe and join me on the journey to real wellness. One moment you're fine, the next you can't speak, walk, or remember your own family. And here's the shocking part. Certain vegetables, the ones praised as superfoods and pushed hardest by a trillion-dollar global market, are loaded with hidden compounds that spike blood pressure, stiffen arteries, and destabilize your blood flow while you sleep. They're exported worldwide because they're cheap to grow and insanely profitable to sell. The truth is buried because healthy seniors don't make the industry money. I've sat in waiting rooms watching families cry, knowing their loved one's stroke could have been prevented if they only knew what I'm about to reveal. Tonight, I'm exposing the 6 vegetables that raise stroke risk overnight. This isn't myth or opinion, it's real science hidden in plain sight. We'll count down from number 6 to number 1. And when we reach the last one, you'll see the study that proved seniors who ate it regularly had a 42% higher risk of stroke. Every single reference I used is listed in the description. Don't take my word for it. Go read the evidence yourself. Before we dive in, here's a quick question. Where in the world are you watching from? Drop it in the comments. I check them personally, and your answers are what fuel these videos. Now, without any further ado, let's start with number 6. And it's a vegetable most people snack on every night without realizing the danger. Number 6, celery. Celery looks harmless. It's crunchy, watery, and low in calories. Many seniors snack on it at night thinking it's the perfect light option. But celery hides a dangerous secret. It's packed with natural sodium. Just one large stalk carries about 50 milliliters of sodium, and most people eat far more than one. For seniors already sensitive to salt, this can silently spike blood pressure overnight. High blood pressure is the single biggest risk factor for stroke, responsible for nearly 87% of cases. The science is clear. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition followed seniors over 10 years and found that those with higher sodium intake had a 21% higher chance of ischemic stroke, the kind caused by blood clots blocking brain arteries. Celery isn't potato chips, but when eaten regularly, the sodium adds up and your blood pressure pays the price. Edgar, 70, retired, thought celery sticks with peanut butter were his healthiest bedtime snack. He laughed when his daughter warned him about sodium, but his blood pressure crept higher each year until one night he woke with a pounding headache and blurry vision. Classic warning signs of a hypertensive crisis. In the ER, doctors told him his diet had quietly loaded his system with too much salt, and celery was part of the problem. Here's what happens inside. Sodium stiffens blood vessels, making it harder for them to expand. Pressure rises, forcing the heart to pump harder. Over time, the inner walls of arteries tear and clots form. Combine that with medication interactions, and a single night of healthy celery snacking can turn into the trigger for a stroke. Does this mean you can never eat celery again? Not necessarily. The problem is portion and timing. A few bites with lunch isn't catastrophic, but eating it nightly, especially before bed, compounds the risk. Seniors with high blood pressure or on medications should think twice before making celery part of their evening ritual. And celery is only the beginning. The next vegetable doesn't just raise pressure, it actually damages your blood vessels from the inside. Number 5, pickled cucumbers. Here's a number that should stop you in your tracks. Seniors who consume pickled vegetables more than 4 times a week face a 34% higher risk of stroke, according to a large study published in the European Journal of Nutrition. And one of the most common culprits, pickled cucumbers, the innocent snack you find in every fridge and diner table. The danger lies in how they're prepared. Pickling cucumbers in brine saturates them with sodium up to 800 milligrams per serving. That's nearly half the recommended daily sodium intake in just a few bites. For seniors over 60 who often already struggle with high blood pressure, this sodium overload pushes pressure into dangerous territory. Remember, uncontrolled blood pressure is the single largest stroke risk. But sodium isn't the only concern. Pickling often involves vinegar and fermentation byproducts, which can irritate blood vessel linings and increase inflammation. Chronic inflammation is a silent partner in stroke. It weakens artery walls, making them more likely to rupture or form clots. For seniors whose vessels are already stiffened with age, this is like hammering cracks into an old pipe. I'll never forget Alan, 74, a retired bus driver. He swore by his nightly ritual of a sandwich with extra pickles, saying it was his healthy, low-fat snack. One morning, his wife found him struggling to lift his left arm, classic signs of an ischemic stroke. In the hospital, his doctor traced his dangerously high sodium levels back to the very foods he thought were harmless. Pickles were high on that list. A 2020 study in the Journal of Hypertension confirmed that older adults with high sodium diets had arteries that were 32% stiffer than those on low-sodium diets. That stiffness makes it harder for vessels to absorb pressure spikes, leaving the brain vulnerable to sudden bleeds or clots. Does this mean cucumbers themselves are bad? Not at all. Fresh cucumbers are hydrating and safe, but once they're pickled, they shift from a protective food to a risky one, especially at night when your body naturally holds on to more water during sleep. Seniors who indulge in pickled cucumbers before bed are unknowingly raising nighttime blood pressure, the very hours when strokes most often strike. Pickles might taste refreshing, but for seniors, they can be a silent threat to the brain. And while sodium is dangerous, the next vegetable on this list doesn't just raise blood pressure, it sneaks in chemicals that thin your blood and make brain bleeds more likely. Before we go on, if you're getting value from this video, go ahead and tap that like button and make sure to subscribe and turn on the bell icon so you never miss out on powerful health tips like these. Number 4, canned tomatoes. Maria is 69, retired, and proud of her cooking. She always made homemade pasta sauces, believing tomatoes were the heart of a healthy Mediterranean diet. But after years of using canned tomatoes for convenience, she found herself rushed to the ER with a sudden spike in blood pressure and dizziness. She couldn't believe something as simple as tomatoes could play a role. But once you look deeper, the science explains why canned tomatoes aren't as harmless as they appear. The first problem is sodium. Unlike fresh tomatoes, canned versions are loaded with added salt to preserve flavor. A single cup can pack over 700 milliliters of sodium, nearly a third of the daily limit in one serving. For seniors already battling hypertension, this is like pouring gasoline on a fire. High sodium levels lead to water retention, which raises blood volume and forces arteries to endure extra pressure. Stroke risk climbs rapidly under those conditions, but sodium isn't the only threat. Canned tomatoes also contain compounds from the lining of the cans themselves, specifically bisphenol, BPA. BPA is a chemical that leaches into acidic foods like tomatoes. Studies published in Hypertension show that seniors with higher BPA exposure have a 23% greater risk of vascular damage and hypertension. That means it's not just the salt, it's the chemical cocktail seeping into every bite. Imagine what happens inside. Salt stiffens your arteries, sugar inflames them, and BPA weakens the lining. Your blood pushes harder and harder against fragile vessel walls. For a senior with already reduced vascular elasticity, this is the perfect storm for a clot or bleed. No symptoms warn you in advance. The damage builds silently until one night the brain's delicate vessels give way. Does this mean seniors must avoid tomatoes? Not at all. Fresh, raw, or lightly cooked tomatoes are packed with lycopene, an antioxidant shown to reduce stroke risk by nearly 19% in older adults. But canned versions flip the equation, erasing benefits with harmful additives. For seniors who rely on quick meals, the easy option of canned tomatoes could be the very habit raising their stroke risk overnight. Maria eventually switched back to fresh tomatoes, simmering them into sauces the way her mother once did. Her blood pressure readings improved within months. It's proof that small changes in the kitchen can protect your brain. Canned tomatoes may feel convenient, but for seniors, they carry hidden dangers that stack up with every meal. And while they flood your body with chemicals and salt, the next vegetable on this list goes even further. It interferes with how your blood clots, turning even a small vessel leak into a life-threatening brain bleed. Number 3, spinach oxalate overload. Here's the shocker. Spinach, often praised as a superfood, is also one of the highest oxalate-containing vegetables in the human diet. A single cup of cooked spinach delivers more than 750 milligaules of oxalates, according to data. published in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry. That's over 6 times more than most leafy greens. Oxalates bind with calcium and form crystals, which don't just damage kidneys, they also stiffen blood vessels and accelerate vascular calcification, both powerful drivers of stroke risk. For decades, spinach has been marketed as heart-healthy and brain-boosting. But for seniors, the oxalate overload can backfire. When oxalates flood the bloodstream, they trigger inflammation in the vascular system. This process, called endothelial dysfunction, makes blood vessels less flexible and more prone to clotting. Stroke risk rises silently, even if you think you're eating healthy. Thomas, 71, retired, believed spinach smoothies were keeping him young. He blended 2 cups daily with fruit and thought he was fueling his brain. But months later, he developed severe joint pain and recurring kidney stones. A scan showed vascular calcifications too, tiny deposits in his arteries that stiffen blood flow. He never realized his superfood was contributing to the very problems he hoped to avoid. Here's how it unfolds inside the body. Oxalates bind with calcium, creating sharp crystals. These crystals circulate, scratching vessel walls and triggering inflammation. Over time, they deposit as plaque and calcification. Add in drug interactions, and the result is a perfect storm of clots, stiffened arteries, and unstable blood flow. For seniors already vulnerable, a bowl of spinach can be more dangerous than anyone expects. Does this mean spinach should be avoided completely? Not necessarily. Small portions a few times a week may be fine, especially when balanced with calcium-rich foods that bind oxalates in the gut before they enter the bloodstream. But the problem is when spinach becomes a daily or nightly habit, especially in smoothies or large servings. For seniors, the dose makes the poison. Spinach has a healthy reputation, but reputation doesn't erase science. Seniors who lean on it too heavily risk oxalate overload, calcified arteries, and blood chemistry imbalances, all silent triggers of overnight strokes. And while spinach stiffens vessels from the inside, the next vegetable raises stroke risk in a completely different way by carrying dangerous nitrates that can suddenly push blood pressure into the danger zone. Number 2, beets nitrate overload at night. Beets are marketed as circulation boosters because they're rich in dietary nitrates. Once consumed, nitrates convert into nitric oxide, a gas that relaxes blood vessels and improves blood flow. In younger adults or athletes, this effect can be beneficial, even enhancing performance. But for seniors, especially those on blood pressure medications, nitrate overload is dangerous. Too much nitric oxide causes blood pressure to plummet, depriving the brain of oxygen and raising the risk of both ischemic and hemorrhagic strokes. Arthur is 73, retired, and always proud of eating brain food. His daughter encouraged him to drink fresh beet juice before bed, saying it would help his memory and blood flow. For months, he thought he was doing the right thing, until one night he woke dizzy, nauseous, and unable to stand. His blood pressure had dropped so sharply that he collapsed. In the ER, doctors connected it back to nitrates from the beets he was drinking every night. The numbers are striking. A study in the Journal of Nutrition found that older adults consuming high nitrate diets experienced an average 11 millimeters of mercury drop in systolic blood pressure within hours. For a senior whose pressure is already being controlled by medication, this sudden plunge can cause fainting, falls, or worse, a stroke caused by unstable blood flow. Beets also have a delayed effect. Blood nitrate levels peak 2 to 3 hours after eating, which means if seniors consume them at night, the most dangerous drop in pressure often occurs while they sleep. Overnight hypotension or low blood pressure during sleep has been linked to silent strokes and brain ischemia. These silent events don't always cause obvious paralysis, but instead slowly damage memory and cognitive function. Here's how it plays out inside the body. You eat beets. Nitrates convert to nitric oxide, opening blood vessels. Pressure drops. At the same time, oxalates bind calcium, stiffening vessel walls long-term. For seniors with fragile arteries, this combination means one wrong surge of blood or one sudden drop can trigger a catastrophic event. Arthur's story is a warning. He thought he was protecting his brain, but the timing and dosage turned the superfood into a silent danger. Doctors now and to avoid beet juice at night and only consume small amounts earlier in the day. This doesn't mean beets are universally harmful. They do improve circulation in controlled amounts, and research shows they can support vascular health when balanced. The problem is when seniors consume them in large servings at night, combining them with medication or pre-existing conditions that make the body vulnerable to sudden changes. And if you thought beets were dangerous, wait until you see the vegetable at number 1, the one almost every senior eats weekly. Yet studies show it raises stroke risk by more than 40%. Number 1, fermented kimchi and pickled vegetables. Kimchi and other fermented vegetables are praised worldwide as superfoods. They're rich in probiotics, they aid digestion, and they're staples in many traditional diets. But here's the dark side. Most seniors never hear. Fermented and pickled vegetables can raise stroke risk dramatically, especially when eaten often at night. A massive population study in South Korea, published in the European Journal of Preventive Cardiology, found that adults over 60 who ate kimchi daily had a 42% higher risk of stroke compared to those who ate it rarely. That's not a small number. It's nearly half again the risk just from a food labeled as healthy. The danger comes from the extreme sodium levels. A single cup of kimchi carries 700 to 800 milligrams of sodium, often more depending on the recipe. Seniors eating multiple servings across the day can easily double or triple their daily limit. Sodium overload raises blood pressure, stiffens arteries, and primes the brain's vessels for rupture. Unlike fresh vegetables, fermented ones hold salt tightly in every bite, meaning the effect is longer lasting. I once treated Eleanor, a 70-year-old retired nurse who swore by homemade kimchi. She ate it every night with rice, believing it was the secret to her longevity. But after months of dizziness, she collapsed during a family dinner, later diagnosed with a hemorrhagic stroke. Her sodium intake from fermented vegetables had been far higher than she realized, and the damage built quietly until it exploded. Here's what happens inside. High sodium makes blood thicker and raises volume, while histamines from fermentation dilate vessels unevenly. The brain's delicate arteries struggle to adapt. Some constrict, others balloon. Pressure builds, a clot forms, or a vessel bursts, all while you're sleeping, unaware that your healthy side dish is sabotaging your circulation. Does this mean fermented vegetables should be avoided completely? Not necessarily. In moderation, small portions a few times a week. They may offer gut health benefits, but the problem arises when seniors consume them daily, especially at night, turning a supposed superfood into a neurological time bomb. Kimchi and pickled vegetables may taste vibrant and come with centuries of tradition, but for seniors, the risk is real. Too much salt, too much fermentation, and too much repetition add up to one of the clearest dietary links to stroke we've ever seen. Now you know the truth. 6 vegetables celebrated as healthy can silently push seniors towards stroke, sometimes overnight. Celery with its hidden sodium, pickled cucumbers flooding the body with brine, canned tomatoes laced with salt and BPA, spinach loaded with oxalates that calcify vessels, beets with nitrate overload dropping blood pressure to dangerous lows, and finally, fermented vegetables like kimchi, delivering staggering sodium and histamine loads that drive the brain's arteries past their breaking point. I've seen patients make these changes and come back stronger, clearer memory, steadier blood pressure, and a lower risk of stroke. That's why I'm passionate about sharing this truth, even if it's uncomfortable. Now, I want to hear from you. Which of these 6 vegetables surprised you the most? Do you eat any of them at night? Drop your story in the comments. I read every single one because your experiences are what keep these videos alive. If this video opened your eyes, hit the like button right now so more seniors see it before it's too late. And don't forget to subscribe for more life-saving health advice where we cut through the myths and tell you what the science really shows. Your brain is your most valuable organ. Protect it, and you protect your independence, your memories, and your future. Don't let the wrong vegetables steal that from you. Your voice matters. Add your questions or experiences in the comments, and let's keep the conversation going. Thanks for watching.